I'm Anthony Quo. I'm the first member of the Irvine City Council to have grown up in our community. But I'm not the only one serving and leading in Irvine who grew up here. Today, we'll hear from John and Lindsay Grijalva. John grew up on the ranch, and Lindsay grew up in Woodbridge, and now they're leading youth sports organizations and PTAs and raising their own family here in our community because of our incredible parks, our stellar schools, and how safe Irvine's neighborhoods are.
I'm Lindsay Grijalva.
And I'm John Grijalva.
I went to Alderwood Elementary when it used to be over in Woodbridge, not in Quail Hill. And then I went to Lakeside Middle School and Woodbridge High School. I played soccer as a kid. I took dance over at Irvine Dance Academy back when it was there. I went to the Big Wheel Park over here in Woodbridge as a kid and rode my big wheel around. And now my kids, when they were little, they'd ride their big wheels around. It was really cool. Very surreal moment, but yeah.
So I have a different story. So we moved to Irvine and my family started homeschooling. So I homeschooled from 2nd through 8th grade and then went to Woodbridge High School. I was involved in everything. So I played soccer over with AYSO Region 213, which our son is now playing for. I played for Northwood Little League because of where we lived, although I now have been involved with Irvine Ranch Little League for quite some time. I played basketball, I swam for the Heritage Park Seals.
And our kids swim for the Seals now too.
And so, and our son plays for Irvine Ranch Little League. So I was just sports 24/7. And then stuff like over at Heritage, they used to have the huge slide with the metal slide of death that was 1,000 degrees, but you still went on it because it was so much fun. So my very first job was over at the Yamaha Center over in the Woodbridge Village Center. It was just somebody that needed help, and so I did that. That was my first job, and then the big one was I lifeguarded for the Woodbridge Village Association for years, and so that was lifeguarding at the pools, lifeguarding at the lagoons, and then I actually grew up sailing with my grandfather and my brother, and I would learn little bits of sailing here or there, and my older brother actually learned more of it, so he would kind of teach me. So we ended up teaching sailing on these lakes together. So I did that. It was sort of everything. I ended up as the assistant head lifeguard, so I was kind of doing the scheduling, and I was running around to all the different facilities, making sure everybody was okay. I was running the splash nights over at the Blue Lake, and so I was working like crazy hours, but I loved it because I was just out there. I was outside. I was working with people, talking to people, especially like the sailing lessons. I was working with kids, and that was kind of that same thing. I didn't have kids yet. I was probably 16, 17, 18 years old, but it was just like, hey, these kids are getting to learn something fun. They're getting to do something fun, and so I really enjoyed it.
We had a lot of discussions over the years before we had kids, when we had really teeny babies, and do we want to move, do we not? It does, it's a little bit expensive here, but our parents are all still in Irvine, and I feel like I had such a safe, wonderful childhood. I wanted to kind of provide that for my kids, and honestly, the schools are what keeps me here for our kids. We can't, beat the schools here. And just parks everywhere, places for our kids to ride their bikes and things like that.
Yeah, I think there's, I've seen little sparks where I say like, oh yeah, like I used to swim for, the Seals, or I used to play soccer for this division, or I used to play against, this division in baseball. And so I think there's sort of a connection with them that they're kind of doing similar things that I've done. And so, trying to give a kid a secure environment where they feel free to become themselves, to take risks, things like that. Irvine just presents such a great opportunity. You can just come here and be exposed to so many different things, and it just helps you be a more compassionate person and a more empathetic person, because you're growing up with different cultures, people who value different things, and you have to understand that. So it's just makes you an incredibly well-rounded person, and it just makes you appreciate people as opposed to just as individuals, as opposed to just cultures. So even though the city has grown just leaps and bounds since I've lived here, it still has a small town feel to it. You can meet your city council members, you can, you know your coaches, you know your teachers. So how do you do that? It's just a little big town.